My name is Tony Danziger, and I am the co-chair of the Global Business Council for the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors. We're one of the largest realtor associations in the United States, and I'm happy to join you today for our very first global chat of 2021. I think we're in our third year of this global chat program. We started, I think, in 2019. And the focus of this particular chat is to talk about the real estate transaction. So I'll get a little bit more into that. But first, I want to welcome Emi Casese, who's our chairperson of the Global Business Council. She's with us today. She's also a leader at FIAPSI, and Richard Haggerty, our CEO. I'd like to welcome Iris DeCunha, who's our colleague and the head of the Global Business Council for the Long Island Board of Realtors, and a partner of ours. I'd also like to thank a few people who've helped us put today's event together. Betsy Sachs, who is with NAR, and she's the manager of the Global Business Alliances and Member Experience Program. Leori Zibetti, who is with Presidio Real Estate, and she is the NAR Global Ambassador to Brazil. I'd like to thank Ileana Bogart, who is the ambassador of NAR faculty to Brazil, Colombia, and Chile. She's also an NAR instructor as well. I'd like to thank Lucia Vanderlei, who is also a CIPS member, and she's also the certification coordinator for COFECI, the Conselho Federal de Corretores de Imóveis. Hopefully I pronounced that right. And Lisa Calarco, again, who has been very much by our side for a number of years, helping us in promoting the events and the programs that we provide every single year. So thanks, Lisa, for joining us, and thanks also to Kathleen Stack, who is literally the right-hand person behind everything that we do at the Global Business Council. I want to just give you a little bit of information about our Global Business Council. Our mission is to provide our members with the tools and the resources to connect globally with real estate professionals around the world. And we offer a collaborative system of information and networking opportunities that help to bridge our agents with those from around the world. And I think the Global Business Chat kind of serves both of those purposes, right? We bring together people, so we're building our network, but we're also providing information. And today's program, we're going to be focusing on Brazil. What we don't do in this program is we don't talk about new developments. We don't talk about cross-cultural relationships. We don't talk about doing a financial analysis of a property. We don't really spend a lot of time talking about market conditions in regions or specific countries. We talk about the real estate transaction. Those are topics you could learn about in your CIPS class, which we encourage everyone to take when you get your designation. We get that information from a lot of different sources. We want to go a step further. We want to go deeper. We want to learn about the transaction, because as professionals, that's the service that we're providing. We're not just locating properties and learning about our cultural differences. We need to know that stuff, but we need to know about the transactions and what the difficulties and the pitfalls are when we're bringing a client into another country or in any market that we're not familiar with. So on that note, I'd like to welcome our tag team. We have two speakers that are joining us today. Luis Fernando Pinto Barcellos is on the board, NAR's board of directors for 2021, and he is also a CIPS instructor. So Luis, thank you for joining us. And we also have Pablo Roberto de Oliveira, who is a principal broker with his own company. He is a real estate appraiser, a property manager, and he's involved in commercial real estate. And both of them are going to help us today navigate the real estate transaction in Brazil. So I'd like to welcome you both, and maybe if you could give us a little bit of background about your history, your experience, that would be great. Luis?
No sound.
No sound.
Luis, please unmute.
Good morning, everybody. And
Morning.
my pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting. And well, COFESI is Conselho Federal de Corretores de Imóveis, is an association in Brazil who is in charge of the licenses for the real estate agents. Every real estate agent in Brazil has to be licensed by COFESI. And
you're staying on video here.
I'm not on the video. No.
Can we mute ourselves, please, if we're not talking? Anyone that's on the phone, can they mute themselves as well? Sorry about that, Luis, Tony.
okay, no problem, no problem. I am also at deformation in my camera, I think, and I am so wide. I am seeing this here. Well, I'm not so wide in reality. Yeah, in person, yeah. Well, then COFESI is a large association. We have more than 400,000 members, and all, as I have told, all the real estate agents in Brazil have to be registered in COFESI to be acting as real estate agents in the market. And also the companies, the real estate companies in Brazil have also to be registered in COFESI. And all of us, we have to follow the rules of our code of ethics. That is just like the NAR code of ethics has many rules to be followed by all the agents in their activity, professional activity. Well, and Brazilians are, it's increasing in Brazil, the international market and the international business transactions between different countries. And we need to, as in the United States, in Brazil, a foreign agent can't act in Brazil as we can act in the United States as real estate agents. And so the partnerships are important, and the referrals, and so COFESI is sponsoring the NAR program of CIPS, and also it's increasing our number of IRMs, International Realtor members. And we are having in average 3 courses of CIPS per year in Brazil, and the number of CIPS is increasing, and the interest of our real estate agents in the international market is also growing. So this is a very good part of market, and I would say that we have also sponsored, COFESI is sponsoring our government in a program of incentive to investment in Brazilian real estate market through giving in return a status of resident, a permanent visa for resident in Brazil for the foreign who invests R$1 million in real estate in Brazil, and it would be at our exchange rate around $180,000, and so it's not so expensive, and this investment grants for the investor the possibility of having the permanent visa for Brazil. And there is another biggest incentive to the northern and northeast regions with 30% less investments. So it would be 700,000 reais, which corresponds today to $127,000. And many foreigners are buying real estate in Brazil in obtaining this visa. In the United States, you have a captive market for this because there are many Brazilians living in the United States, many of them already American citizens, and many other green card holders who have families in Brazil and a high interest in making this investment that for them and for all of you is very cheap. Is exactly for the exchange rate and between dollar and real. Well, I will stop a little bit to let you listen to Pablo Roberto, who has many good information for all of us, and then I will be ready for answering questions later on. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Pablo, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I wanted to spend a little time going through the process of the real estate transaction in Brazil, step by step, because I know there are particularities with purchasing real estate in Brazil. So you could tell us a little bit about yourself, and maybe let's go into the process itself.
About the process. So Paulo Roberto is, okay, Paulo Roberto then.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for the Global Business Council for the invitation. Thank you to Elena and Betsy for also being part of this, Barcelos, Lucia for all the support, and to our President, João Teodoro, which is the President of our Federal Council, is always supporting all these movements by supporting realtors. That's very important. And when we talk about realtors, that's what's the most important when we exchange experiences. I think a market get better and people got better when that happened. And it's
Let's see, we may have lost Pablo there.
Hello, I think you have muted yourself. There you go.
You don't know how it happened, but it's done. But just getting better, I think. Just getting back, I think market will get better every time events like that happen. You know, having you here as a moderator, having Barcelos, and everybody change experience, and that's very important for our market. Me as a professional, I'll be in the market for almost 30 years now. We have our company here in Curitiba, which is just south of São Paulo. And over here, we work with sales of used property, launching new developments, and also with administration of location or rental properties. You guys got another name here, but over here, that's how we call it. So
property management, perhaps? Is that property management?
Yes, property management. So here in Curitiba, we got almost 1,500 properties that we do the administration in our company. And as a professional, during a part of this time, I start working with appraisal. That's one thing that I like very much to work with. Once done this, I start work with prospecting and making development in big areas for housing project, especially Minha Casa Minha Vida, which was a big thing that happened here in the past 10 years. But the professional here in Brazil now is different than it was 10 years ago, or he is different than was a year ago. Things change very much, and CIPS is one thing that's happening now. We probably got over 100 and something CIPS in Brazil. Until 2 years ago, we have maybe 30. I don't know. Luis Barcelos can give us the number, but I think we're over 100 and something people working here. It's easier. No, it isn't easy. You find here in Brazil good professionals, but you also going to find professionals that are not ready for this kind of work. So first of all, you got to find the proper professional to work a property or to make what we do as a CIPS. So things like that gotta happen. CIPS is one thing that gotta be done every year, especially here in Brazil, which are a continental size country. It isn't easy. No, it isn't. But first of all, if you got a client, you gotta do as we do as a CIPS. You just gotta contact your professional, talk about this client, and then go. But what we need is know each other more than just by a call, you know.
So Pablo, one of the things that we obviously need when we're working on a transaction is, like you mentioned, we need to find the right partners, the right people to work with. So obviously, we need people who are licensed in real estate to help us locate the property and to get the transaction going. But we also need an attorney, and I know that that's very important in Brazil. And we also need in Brazil, like in many other countries, not so much here in the United States, but a notary public or an escrivão, I think is how they call them. If maybe
right.
You could tell us a little bit about, what the role of the attorney is, what the role of the escrivão is, and how important they are in the transaction.
For you to have, you gotta have a CIPS or a realtor to help you. First of all, to find the property that your client need, or to do the business that your client have to do. Second, the attorney is gonna do what he does here is same as a escrow does in United States. He's gonna check all the documents, he's gonna check the person, and he's gonna give you the okay for the transaction. When you come to a notary, is more to affirm what the attorney did. So he's just gonna, how you say it, he's just gonna give you the okay for the transaction. That's more or less that. He's gonna put that in paper. But it's a process very long. It's different than you guys have here, have in the United States. I think there is faster than it is over here, you know.
Okay. And when we're talking about, there was a good question in the chat, which I think Luis may have answered. The licensing for agents, real estate agents, is it federal or does it go by state? So each individual real estate agent's license, is that issued by the federal government in Brazil, or is it issued by the individual state within Brazil?
Sorry. Would you please repeat your question?
So when we're working with a licensed agent in Brazil, is that agent licensed to do business only in a particular state, or is it a federal license that allows that?
I see. I have answered in the chat. In Brazil, the license is federal, but it is issued state by state. So, but if you will work as a real estate agent in another state different than your home, where you have the license issued by, then you need to have a secondary license that is issued by the other. We have different. We have our system is COFES is federal. COFES is the federal organ and institution, federal institution, and we have the state by state. We have the CRECI that is regional. It's each state has a CRECI, CRECI, Conselho Regional de Corretores de Imóveis. So we have 27 regional councils and one federal that holds all of them. And the license is issued by each regional council, but the license is worth in all the countries, federal. And you need to be graded in a course that is TTI, Técnico em Transações Imobiliárias. And this course will allow you to register in the system COFESE-CRESE and then be a real estate agent in Brazil. So the license is the same for all the country, but it's as it is issued in one state to work in another state, you need to communicate them and ask them permission to work there. And this is the secondary license. So it's the same license with another allowance to work out of our original state.
Now, in the United States, for example, our association has an MLS, which is basically a collection of listings that all of the members who are part of that MLS share with each other. When we're looking for properties in Sao Paulo or Bahia or anywhere in Brazil, is there a similar type of a system that collects this information and shares it with everyone? Or do we rely on each individual agent licensed firm to help us search the listings that they have and then work with someone else to see someone else's listings? How does it work in Brazil?
Okay, in Brazil we have no MLS yet. We have not MLS in Brazil. We have some portals, and these portals have publicized the listings of many real estate agents and real estate companies, and this is the way where by which you may look for the client or another real estate agent may look for a property to sell or to buy, and then COFESE is developing a tool to interact, to upload our properties in realtor.com. That is a big portal and worldwide access. And then this is what we have in Brazil to publicize our listings at the moment.
Okay. And Pablo, if you could take us now, walk us through the first step. Okay, let's say we've identified a property in Brazil and we're ready to make an offer. My understanding is that in Brazil, I think there are 3 different ways to make an offer. You can correct me on that, but there's the contrato de reserva. There's also the carta de oferta formal, and there's the contrata promessa, right? Are those the 3 different ways of making an offer? Do you go choose one, or does one lead to another one? It's not even the contract, right? That's not even the contract sale.
Tony, I don't have to say anything. You've said everything already. You know more than we do here. let me.
That's
let
my
say,
by the way, because that could be very confusing for us in the United States because we have a
it is. Well, like Marcelo said, we don't have MLS. That's one thing that's very difficult. So when you want to find a property, what are you going to do? You're going to go to a portal. We have many portals here, and they range all over Brazil. So if you want to look for a property in Manaus, you can do that. You get inside the site, and you're going to look for a type of a building that you need, a type of a property, and you're going to find that. Once you find that, you're going to find who was the broker or the realtor that is published. Well, you're going to put who's responsible for that. Then you make a visit to the property. You go there with your client. It shows everything like you do in back in the States. Once you see that your client is ready for a proposal, he goes to your office or goes to the office that got the property, and he gonna write down this proposal. He can do it this way, or he can do through an email, and also he can do well, WhatsApp, any kind of communication. You can send this proposals. But there's one thing that you gotta do. They always gotta put a down payment for that. Over here, we work with.
Who holds
Sorry?
that? Is it your firm that holds the down payment in an escrow, or is it a down payment that gets sent to?
Yeah, we don't have an escrow here. We don't have an escrow here. So we do the down payment to that company or to that realtor on the other side. Okay, usually it goes around 6 to 10%. And once the owner of the other side say, okay, Paulo, I'll accept, that value goes to this owner, and then we start doing the whole thing. Then you get all the papers, send to your attorney if you have, or otherwise you just send to another company that's going to do all the paperwork.
We're not in contract yet, right? The contract is another document. Would that be correct? Because this is just an offer that's accepted with the
Yeah, that's an offer. You're making here an offer. Once that's accepted, then you're gonna do another kind of contract. Sometimes you do direct with the owner, or sometimes if you're gonna do a mortgage, you go right to the bank. But we have here a professional that we call a dispatchant, which is the guy that's gonna do all the paperwork. He gets all the paperwork, and then he's gonna make this contract, and then he calls the parts, and then you take from there.
And what role does the attorney play? Attorney, I'm very sensitive to keeping the job, so I want to make sure.
Usually the attorney is gonna do the same work as the dispatchant is gonna do. He's gonna take care of all the documents of that property that I'm buying it. You're gonna have the attorney just to make sure that everything is fine, you know. And you got attorneys just for real estate, so he's gonna take all the documents from the property, all the documents from that seller, and he's gonna check it out, and he's gonna say, Paulo, you can buy it. And then we take that to this dispatchante, or the dispatchante will send the contract to this attorney. He's gonna take a look at it and gonna say, okay, go ahead.
And I think what you're referring to is the due diligence stage, right? The due diligence, the title search, perhaps, because here in the United States, when we're buying a property, you know, we're always concerned about, well, what are we getting, right? You're selling it to me. Do you really own it? Are there any encumbrances on the title? I want to be sure that what I'm buying is a clean, as we call it, clean title. So you have something in Brazil, the registry certificate, correct? The
Yes.
Certificado de Ônus Reis, I think, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, we call it here a registro. So over there, on that document, you got all the things that happen with that property since the beginning, who bought it and who sold it, and everything is there. But the attorney is going to do what? He's going to just check it out if the document is okay, if that paper is okay, if that property is okay, if there's no problem with the owner, because it's not just the property. You got to see if the owner is okay too. Sometimes it happens. You buy a property, and then the owner had a problem before, and they come and get your property back again. There's a lot of trouble with that. So that's what the counsel, the lawyer will do on this case. He's gonna check everything, and once he say, okay, can go ahead, and then you just go ahead. But you have to have this property registration, to know what happened with that property along the years.
Right, and here we call it an abstract of title, which basically what you say, and that's of course, you know, very important, because I think many countries don't have that. So you know, that offers you enormous protection. What happens, for example, now you put down a deposit, That was the first step. I think you mentioned somewhere around 6%, maybe to 10%.
Yeah, 6 to 10% is that's a change according to the company or whatever.
Now, let's say we find a problem in this abstract. Let's say we find a problem with the owner or with the property, and we decide, okay, we no longer want to proceed with the transaction. How do we get that money back? Can you get it back?
Once you pass that value to the other person, he's gonna get you back. He just send you the money back. But if you do the down payment and then you say, well, I don't want that anymore, you're gonna lose it. Not because of documents or anything like that. Let's say that you think you're not ready for that, or you think a little bit more. You think that's I'm gonna buy something else. Forget it. You're gonna lose that money.
Right. So there has to be a problem. Property. Here it would be in the contract. It would be something like marketable title, as we call it. So there's something that gives us the way to back out. Do you find that there are sometimes issues? For example, we've talked a little bit about escrow. That's one way that we ensure putting money in escrow. It's one way that we ensure that the money is safe. It can only be released out of escrow to either the seller or the buyer under certain conditions. So is there a mechanism by which that happens, that return of the money? Or are there situations where maybe sometimes the seller doesn't want to give it up?
It's funny when you say that. Like in our company, we don't pass that down payment to the other side. We keep it.
Okay. So you
Why?
are.
Because sometimes, let's say, I'll pass to Tony or I pass to John, which is the guy that's selling the property, and he needs that money. He's gonna use it for something else, and then he doesn't have it to give it back. So we do that, but we do as a way of working in our company. So we keep that money until everything is fine. Okay, it's everything fine. So we're gonna repass, or we're gonna pass that cash, that money, or that down payment.
Okay. And once we've seen the registry, once we've seen that everything is okay, what's the next step? Where do we go from there? When do we get to the actual contract?
Well, once the registration is all done, all the documents are all seen, you go for the mortgage or financing, whatever you're gonna do. That will take, if it's mortgage, it will take around 30 days to get that done. So once the contract is signed, you get your keys at that moment, and then you can start moving and doing all your stuff in your new house or new home.
So basically, would you say that the contract itself is signed, let's say on the day of the closing, when the deed? Okay, so that's very different than how we.
Yeah, but it will take about 30 days to do that, 30 or more. Mortgage, it changes by the companies. Like we have just a handful of banks that do mortgages in Brazil, different than the States. When you have thousands of banks that can do mortgage, over here we just got a few. So the line for the mortgage or financing is very long. It takes a long time. So when you're gonna finance or do a mortgage, you can wait for 30, 60 days to that process done. It's a little longer.
And that's a good point, because we've made an offer, we've got an accepted offer, we put down a deposit, but I guess we have to talk about where does that money come from, because if I'm coming from the United States, I'm probably either going to have cash or I'm going to need financing. So if you're coming from another country, what is the possibility of being able to get financing to do a purchase in Brazil? I might be able to get a mortgage in my own home country by refinancing my house, for example, but are foreign buyers able to get financing in Brazil?
Yes, it's like Marcelo said before. You can, as a foreign, you can come and buy a property like in northeast of Brazil, $120,000. You can buy a property, or that's the amount that you need to get your Brazilian green card or something like that. But it's possible to do that. See, yes, it's possible.
And when people are looking to buy into Brazil, let's say they've identified a property and they're ready to buy, what do they need to do specifically before they come there? Do they need to acquire a number with let's say, the Brazilian version of the IRS? Do we need a tax ID number? Do we need any kind of paperwork that will say, okay, this is who we are, this is where we're coming from, or maybe we're buying it as a business.
Yeah, you can do that. Just like you can do, just like you said. We have here what we call a CPF, which is like a kind of a number of for federal identification. So you gotta have this number. So to do that, you gotta have here probably an address or something like that. But that Barcelos probably can tell you better than I do. Yeah, CPF is like SSN. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so that's something we would want to do before we start the process.
Yeah. First of all, but people come and they start doing the other way. They start looking at properties and they go here, they go there, and then they do they make a proposal, and then things start happening. But you got to have all these documents to start doing the right way.
So Luis, on that note, when you see foreign buyers coming into Brazil, doesn't have to be from the United States, it could be from whatever country. What are 2 or 3 problems that you typically would find? What are we missing as foreign buyers? What are we doing wrong when we come to Brazil that you could tell us to avoid those problems?
Well, first of all, our CPF is like your social security number.
Yeah.
It will be like this. And well, today, a buyer doesn't come to another country without before having contact with agents from this country, on that country. So it's very important to be in touch, our professionals and yours, in touch to referrals and to refer these transactions. And then when prospect buyer from the United States or another country comes to Brazil, it will look for some people who have been referred before for him, and so that it's very, very improbable that any buyer would come to a country without having previously established contact and without a proposed agent in that country. So I believe that this is the way that is usual, and that's why it's very important, the CAPS net, because we all are in touch in many countries, and also we have in groups and social media in which we may offer and receive offers, and know who is needing real estate property in our country or in another country.
Mm-hmm. Now, there are some restrictions, right? I mean, generally, anyone who comes into Brazil is legally entitled to buy real estate, but there are some restrictions, right? If I wanted to buy beachfront property, might I have an issue with that?
Yeah, all countries have some restrictions on some, but in Brazil, they are very few. We have restrictions, for instance, in the border, the international borders, the frontiers, and it's for security. And but we have no restrictions, for instance, in the coast, and so the properties that on the areas, the coastal areas, beaches, and there are no restrictions for that properties. And there are some restrictions for rural areas, in size of the areas for foreigners, but they may establish a company in Brazil and then these restrictions are less. So there are not many restrictions for foreigners to buy in Brazil, and it's very safe for them because our system of property is very safe for foreigners. And even talking about income tax and taxes on properties, they are the same for foreigners than for Brazilians.
And that brings me to my next question. It sure is wonderful to own a condominium in Sao Paulo or Bahia or wherever you may be in Brazil. But I also need to know, what is this going to cost me? I may be using it as a second home. I may be using it as an investment property, Airbnb. What are the expenses, the carrying costs in terms of property taxes or any other kinds of income tax
Okay.
that come from owning property?
Okay, I understand. Well, in Brazil, we have two kinds of taxes on the property. The first of them is an annual tax on property, and it's around 2% of its value. 2% of its value that we pay every year. It's IPTU. It's a tax on the property, and there is the tax when you sell the property. That would be on the difference between your acquisition value price and the price you are selling. You will be taxed by this difference, and this tax would be around between 15 and 20%.
So it's essentially a tax on let's say capital gains, not on the full price.
No,
on the difference.
this one is on the gain on capital, and but the other is every year is on the value of the property, 2% a year.
And aside from that, I mean, you also have property insurance costs, right? What does an insurance policy cost for a property, let's say a residential property, not so much commercial, could be a condo, a single family house, something like that?
You are talking about insurance?
Yes.
Okay. We have not that the insurance on title is not usual in Brazil. Titles in Brazil are very safe. They have to be registered in the notary, specific notary of registro de imóveis, or real estate register. Okay, and so there you have all the history of the real estate property since it has been owned by the first owner up to nowadays. All the history is there in this register, and it's very safe. So it's not usual the title insurance, but you have.
Let's say there's a hurricane or some sort of natural disaster that strikes.
Okay, well, then it's another insurance. Yeah, it's another insurance. Insurance for natural disaster, burning, or theft. So fire, yeah, burning, fire, and we have no earthquakes. We have no volcanoes in Brazil. We have no typhoons. No, we have a very, very safe country in this aspect. But this insurance is very cheap, and all of us have on our homes and our properties.
Okay, and some of the other costs that are involved. Maybe Pablo can go to this as a property manager. Of course, if you're buying a property in another country, maybe you're looking to use it as an investment, you want to rent it out. What are some of the regulations that we have to comply with? Are there limits in what we can charge for rent? What are the property management fees? What are some of the fees associated with managing a property in Brazil?
Okay, let's say Tony buy a house in a condominium here in Brazil, and I'm gonna take care of that. First of all, whoever is gonna rent that property gonna pay for the land taxes for the condominium, because it's in a condominium. So you got 50 houses on that condominium, you got a swimming pool, you got grass, you gotta be taking care of it. You got the hall of entrance, and you gotta have people to work that. So they got all the costs of that condominium, and they split with each owner. So there's a cost for the condominium, and the person that is renting their house is gonna pay for that. He pays for condominium, he pays for the land taxes. He also is gonna pay for insurance that's if he needs it. When you talk about insurance, we're talking about fire, any rain, anything that happened that can damage that property. That's are the costs that he's gonna have. If he doesn't have, if don't have anybody to guarantee that he's gonna pay for, we call here a fiador. I don't remember what's the name for in the States, but the person that can guarantee that that rental is gonna be paid once the person that is renting cannot pay. We also, if he doesn't have that person, then he gotta go to another kind of insurance company that we're gonna pay in case of it. So that will cost another 8 or 10% of the value of all this rent. That's one thing. When you get the property and you wanna put for administration, like managing, how you call it? Property management, sorry. The owner will pay for this company 10% of the rent. Okay, but Paulo, we gotta need to change all the floor on that property. We gotta send somebody to paint it. The company can do that, but also gonna charge 10% of all the work that was done there, because I had to go there and make sure that everything was done. I contract the people, so he pays for that too. So that's the costs of it. You can also now, there's some condominiums that already start accepting the Airbnb, but it's something that's gotta be right down on the contract, because we see here in some condominiums that they don't accept that. The turnover too fast of people getting in and getting out, they don't feel comfortable with that. There's no security on that. So some condominiums don't like it, Airbnb, but the others, some buildings are being done for Airbnb here in Brazil. And once you are a property owner, if it's in your name, the property, you're gonna pay something like 27.5% of taxes. If it's a company that you bought the property in name of a company, you're probably gonna pay around 16.3% of taxes.
So taxes, and that's a tax on what? A tax on the income that you get, or?
Yeah, the income that you make, yeah.
Is that gross income, or is that net income?
Net income.
On net income. Okay. And then when you talk about the condominium fees, I guess the taxade, I think the monthly condominium fee, what are we talking about in terms of that? I'm sure that varies between one building to another, depending on what.
Depending on the kind of property that the condominium. We have here in Curitiba a condominium of apartments, which each floor got 1,000 square meters. And over there, the condominium is around 13,000 reais, which come to close to $4,000 a month.
And then one more question from me, and then I want to just open it up to the rest of the audience. When we're ready to close now, what do you recommend? What do you tell your buyers the final cost is going to be to you, the closing cost? What's a percentage of the purchase price are we talking about when we add up all of the fees, the taxes?
All the documents and everything else. I would say something around 3%, 3 to 4%.
Okay, so not too different from the United States, actually. Yeah. And who pays the broker fee? Does the buyer pay the broker fee? Does the seller?
The seller. Over here, who buys it is the seller.
Okay. Let's open it up to some of our audience members to see what questions they might have, because I'm sure they have quite a few.
Yeah, I see here on Fiador is a guarantor. That's right, Larry. One thing that we're saying here that we don't have here is when you have a survey to see how the property it is. I'm gonna call a company to make sure that the house is safe. There's no termites or this or that. We don't have this. That's not something that have to be done. But if I'm as a buyer wants to do that, I contract a company with my costs to take care of this, to see if everything is fine before I go ahead with this process.
Does anyone else have any questions they'd like to share? I see we had one question about getting money out of Brazil. Let's say someone decides to sell a property in Brazil and they need to take that money back out and send it back to the United States. Any issues with that? Are there any restrictions?
Well, to get the money out of Brazil, we use the banks, and all the banks can send money outside Brazil. And the only obligation is to fill a form that is obligation of the bank to send to the Central Bank of Brazil. That's it. This is the only what you need to send money out of Brazil.
We had one question that just came up on the chat, and we didn't really talk about that. We mentioned about maybe having an issue with the title that would allow us to pull out of the initial offer that we made, that initial contract. What if, do we have a system for doing an inspection if we're buying a condo or a house? Is that part of the process, getting a licensed inspector to come in, look at the property, and then if something is wrong, we're able to pull out, or no?
Well, any property in Brazil has to have a document named a BTC. So it's a document issued by the government of the city, and that allows it to be occupied even by residents or commercial. And so if a real estate property has this document named a BTC, then it's okay to be occupied. But every buyer is allowed, and it's good that he does, have a inspection of the property, checking every if everything is working and if it's okay, and so it may be done by the real estate company that is selling or is his buyer representative to check the conditions of the property for the buyer. Okay.
And
Tony,
yes,
there's another thing. What Marcelo was saying. When you have this BTC, usually is for new properties. When you get new properties, everything done. If let's say if I'm selling a used property, okay, then we don't have companies that do that yet. It is not, you're not obligated to do that, but you can call someone to do that stuff and say, okay, it's ready, it's good, it's not good, and then you go ahead, you know.
See, I think that would be like the certificate of occupancy, I think.
Yeah.
Of that. And well, now we've just spent an hour talking about the real estate transaction process in Brazil. We could probably have a whole class about this. But we touched on a lot of great information. But I wanted to spend just a few minutes, maybe Pablo, you can talk to us a little bit about the market in Brazil. I know this year, the last year has been a bit difficult for everybody, but maybe you could talk to us a little bit about what the real estate market is doing in Brazil right now.
Well, it's good. It's good you to say that, because the real estate market in Brazil was different than what we were expecting. In the end of 2019, we start to see a movement of growing and the selling properties. The things we're expecting to be good. Then when came March, we had the lockdown. Everybody started to be, what I gonna do? What gonna be of my business? How are we gonna grow? And with the real estate market was different. The things start going. And we had the best year last year, 2020, for the real estate market wasn't bad. The numbers of mortgage done in Brazil, it grew 53% last year compared to 2019. We sold in 2019 2.2 billion. Last year was sold 3-point-something billion reais in properties. So the last year wasn't that bad. And what's good, and what happened with the real estate market, especially when we start talking about the realtors, was that the realtors start looking for a new way of talking to his customer, with his client. So he went to Facebook, Instagram. He started learning things that they didn't know. Like I was saying before, I did last year more than 120 lives on Instagram, bringing people to talk about their business, how to do it, how get better. And that's how our realtor started to doing. So I believe that we got now better realtors than we had before, because they went looking and trying to learn more and more and more. Because we stay closed for almost 6 weeks. And especially during the whole year, things were happening. So digital signature that everybody didn't want to do it, now we start doing it. Visits with companies that just make visit for you. So you want to see a house, you call this company, the guy go there, he film for you right away, and you say if you want to or don't want that property. The appraisal, we start doing appraisal in the way that we were doing before. Now things are getting better, so a lot of apps start to come into market to make life of the realtor better. Tools that we were using, now we're using, and I think the market in Brazil is just getting better. And like I said before, events like that just make market better, make people better, make professionals better. So I think we're going to do fine this year.
Great. So we have about 2 minutes left. So I have two things that I wanted to state, because we have a lot of people who have questions. So I wanted to see if maybe you both could share your contact information
Okay.
on the chat, and maybe people can contact you directly. I want to tell everybody that this recording will be put on our website, so it's going to be available again. And if Pablo or Luis have any other information that they want to share with us, I think we'll be happy to put it on the website as well, about the market in Brazil and the process of doing the real estate transaction. So we're kind of going to end here, but we're not going to end because that information will be available. My final question is, congratulations, we just completed a real estate transaction. Now, how are all of these wonderful agents that are joining us, how are they going to get paid? Because I'm assuming that they're all expecting a referral fee, right? How does that happen? How does that work?
Well, I was putting in the chat my contact, my email address, and my phone number, which is also WhatsApp. So any questions you have, and there was not time enough to make here, so send us, and it will be a pleasure to answer. Okay, and count on us here in Brazil. And you will be always welcome here in our country. Thank you very much.
And Pablo, any response to that question? You're referred a client by one of our CIPS agents here in the U.S. What's the process for a referral fee? How does that work? How do they exchange payments?
Well, I did a couple of negotiations, and it's just normal. It's like we do with people in Florida or realtors in Florida, CIPS. We just got it. First of all, identify who's the professional on the other side, and tell him what's the percentage of that business, and how much you or me gonna take on that, which is the piece of each of them, and just let it be very clear, and so things start the right away. What are we seeing when things don't work right is when you don't tell, first of all, how the business got to be done, or how you have this meeting with the seller. And once you do that, I think everything goes away. I don't know if it was that your question, but that's what I understood.
Yes. Thank you. So I think we touched on a lot of different topics. Our time has run out, but it was really informative. And thank you so much for joining us, taking time out of your schedule. I really hope that we can do this again, and maybe do a different topic. So I want to thank both Pablo and Luis for joining us today. And thanks also again to Betsy Sachs and Leody Zibetti, Ileana Bogart, Lucia Vanderlee, Lisa Calarco for helping us, and for your input and your time. And thanks for everybody for joining us. Please check our website for more information for a recording of this if you want to share it. And we'll be back in a couple of months. One other thing I want to say, we had our global summit last November, went virtual. We had amazing feedback from people. We had people from all over the world join us for that amazing event. We're going to be hosting that again, hopefully live at the New York Marriott Marquis Hotel, where we've been doing it for the last 14 years. The great news is that NAR is having its C5 Commercial Real Estate Summit on the 27th, the 28th, and the 29th of September at the New York Marriott Marquis Hotel, right before we host our event, which is going to be on September 30th. So hopefully we're going to have it live. I hope you can join us in person. If not, we're working on a hybrid virtual and in-person event. So we'll have more information on that. So thanks for joining us and have a great week.
Muito obrigado para tudo.
Obrigado.
Okay, obrigado.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Global
Bom dia.
HDR Global Business Council members, please stay on. Thank you.
Muito obrigado.
Tchau.
Tchau.
Well,
Go.
Okay, ciao.
Bye-bye.